welcome so much to our first office hours in 2022. My name is Johan. I'll be your host for the next hour here, answering questions on MDT, ConfigMgr, Intune, Windows, OS deployment, pretty much everything related to those areas as well. That being said, any chance you noticed that we published all dates for January this time around? That's one of my resolutions for the year was to actually be a little bit more proactive in making sure this content is available. So if you go up to our academy and scroll down to office hours, should be down here somewhere. You can now see that we publish all the dates for January, and we're going to do this going forward, take 1 month ahead at a time. And as you can see here, we also added in some dates in the morning so that people in Europe have a fighting chance to attend without having to spend or stay up until midnight. And yeah, hopefully this will be a good schedule to try to keep a little bit mix and match of those times and dates there. Also, unless you noticed, we do have a free mini course about our lab environment coming up on the 20th. Yes, how to build a perfect lab environment starting on January 20 at 9 a.m. Central Time. And this one, the price is also just right. This is also one of the community events we do here. So if you're interested in getting a lab going, well, this is a good one. And speaking of lab environments, I did a small push or change during Christmas. Andrew has been kind. Andrew Johnson, one of our co-presenters or instructors here at the Academy, has been working to optimize our hydration kit, making sure it works a little bit better, fix some bugs and whatnot. And as of last night, day before last night, it's a blur. Recently, it's now available on GitHub. And we have a 2022 kit coming up, hopefully tomorrow. And that will be also on GitHub. But that allows us to track changes more easily and allow people to come with suggestions and even bug reports should there be any for this kit. So very excited about that. If you haven't seen this, I'll be happy to paste the link in the chat for you guys so you have it. But this is all exciting news, I think. All right. So with that out of the way, do you guys have any questions? Any questions at all? Feel free to use the Q&A function. And I see one question coming in from Matt here. All right. Close that one. And I'm going to open up the second chat window so I have a chance to actually see things at the same time. It helps having multiple monitors for sure. All right, here we go. So the question was regarding if I've tested the toast notification from Martin, because I cannot change the website or the company website. And do I need to use ConfigMgr for that solution at all? I have not used this outside of ConfigMgr, this particular solution, but I can't really see why not, because all in all, it's in the end of it, it's a script that runs on the client, and as long as that script have enough permissions to do what the script is supposed to do, it should run just fine. So let me show you what the question is about, the post itself. I'm going to bring that up on the screen. So going to do this full screen for now. So let me just switch over here. Perfect. So the question was regarding this toast notification solutions for Martin, whether that can be run outside of ConfigMgr or not. I have not tried, but Martin is pretty active on Twitter. So in general, if you reach out to him, he is good at answering questions. Not sure if you have enabled comment on his blog as well. Yeah, he does. And he seems to be replying fairly quickly to those questions as well. So do leave a comment here for Martin, and I'm pretty sure he will look that up or answer that question. Let me see if I can find his here. This is also his Twitter alias. So good start there. I'll put that in the chat for you guys so you have it. All right. Any other questions? Let's see. Shad is asking about the task sequence variable SMS TS media type that have some values that are not entirely documented. And Chad is looking for the value for PixieBoot. Do I know the value on the top of my head? I do not, but I'm pretty sure that I would combine the efforts of ConfigMgr here, can deploy something, and we can take a look. Was this ConfigMgr environment has a normal Pixie server on it? These days, I mostly use iPixie since that's what I work with mostly, but this one should have a normal one, I hope. See you in a minute. Yeah, administration. Yeah, all right, let's go to a client and do a PixieBoot. Gonna borrow one of these, go to a clean snapshot. Gonna move it to the network where my Pixie server is, or at least where there's an IP helper for it. And to look at variables that shows up in the environment, I found the debugger extremely helpful for that. That's something we usually cover in our troubleshooting courses, but it's very easy to enable. Because if I go to a collection, for example, my all unknown computers collection, and go properties, go collection variables, I have enabled TS debug mode. So that one is set to true, that particular variable right here. Now, let me go and clean up a few previous deployments if I have them. Nope. Nope. All right, I'm good to go. So go to that client. I'm going to boot it. The Democrats are with us. It will fix a bit. I mean, what can possibly go wrong in a live demo? Apparently a lot of things. One doesn't look entirely happy. Make sure that the HTTP server is running. It looks like it. gonna give that one a friendly nudge. And I'm gonna give the Windows Deployment service here a friendly nudge as well, or rather the Pixie service a friendly nudge. It's using the native Pixie responder. I thought, if I actually go to the distribution point, it will be much better, since I don't have a DP on my site server. Here we go. Data bump. And we're going to try again. All right, network. Look in the log file real quick. Find the client. Something up with the MP, it looks like. Well, I did got a notification about this service was closed down abruptly, I'm assuming for a power outage or something. So I'm gonna give this one a little boot and see if it does it. While we're waiting for that one, we can look up those variables are what we can find on the doc site for those in the meantime. So the only ones that are indeed documented, these four. It's supposed to say Pixie. Right, let's see if this one is up and running again. Looks like it. The management point looks somewhat happy on this one. I did have a crash on this server just before the holidays. See if that can have played in with something. Somewhat happy. That was hopefully from earlier and not now. I'm going to try to do a pixie boot again, otherwise I'm afraid we'll have to leave this test for now. Does not look like that one is happy at all. Oh, something is up with the management point, and I actually wrote a blog post about that little incident because it turned out that my site server ran out of disks in this lab. Let's see here. I had imported some files to my environment, and from the beginning I had 0 bytes on it. And after the move, I had more bytes available on it. So if you run out of disk space, the site server becomes unhappy, and that's exactly what happened in this environment here. All right. Sorry about that, Chad. I have to look up that question when I get the management point up and rolling on that machine again. This one doesn't appear to be too happy at the moment. Some basic things here before we move on. Remove the management point and add it back. That helps. All right, while we're waiting for that one, let's see what other questions we had. Alpha is asking if there is a deployment for my unknown computer collections. Yeah, I have quite a deployment to that, quite a number of deployments to that collection. Most of my sequences that I have in my lab environment, they are deployed to that collection. For example, my 20H2 sequence has a deployment to that collection, and I can also go to that collection and see what other deployments that are deployed to it. So deployments tab give you some information about what sequences that are available for this collection. All right. So let's see, Matt is having a question. So having a couple of machines failing to get a specific update. Can't even install it from the update catalog. The device has the latest servicing stack installed. Any ideas? So let's see what update that may be. This was the KB in question. So this was the December update for 1909. Additional requirements listed on this one. The machines. So I'm assuming it's not all machines, it's just some of them that fails to get that update. At least that's how I read the question. So we can see what Google thinks about that. And this particular KB. At least not for that update. Well, this one looks pretty spot on. Well, I don't think that's the case because the question was related to actually had downloaded the package, even when downloading it from the Microsoft Update catalog. I don't know, possibly the Windows Update log can give you some details about why it's not installing. To get that Windows Update log, PowerShell snippet can convert it into readable format since they changed the layout a while back. But I don't see anything obvious. The CBS error, the CBS log file might give you some ideas, but it just looks like the usual suspects showing up in the results, meaning these are usually sites that have absolutely no clue on what they are posting about. I'm trying to find some credible sources for that error. No luck on that one, I'm afraid. Possibly a Reddit thread. That can be quite good. Oh yeah, maybe you check the CBS log file and see if you have something that is similar to this one. That would be my best bet for now. It's not something I've stumbled across myself, this particular one. All right. In the meantime, since I'm just removed my management point, I'm going to put it back on my server, see if it behaves a little bit better. Good. And the difference I have in my site here is that it is indeed running in enhanced HTTP. This particular one is at least. So we can take a look at the program files. Works. Should have an SMM. Let's see. MP setup. This one is about now. Now installing. This was the previous uninstall. That one is done. Seems to have finished as well. Well, it doesn't look entirely unhappy. Shall we give it a go, just for the fun of it? Let's do it. Give it a try. help much. Oh, that is not a happy site server for sure. Something is up. Ah, here we go. Oh, winning. When in doubt, reinstall the management point. Johan said it. All right. Um, we can actually compare the log file now just for the fun of it. We should now see a different entry. The SNS Pixie log. Oh yeah, this looks much better. Set the MAC address, was trying to deploy, found the management point, found deployments, a ton of them. These were all my deployments here, and I decided to use that particular one. That was the last one I deployed, and then it started the boot image. All right. So as soon as the WAV file comes down, I should be able to pick a sequence, and we should be able to see in the variables that Chad was asking about. And there was a follow-up comment from Chad as well regarding the documentation that pre-stage media is really OM media, and that is absolutely true. This particular here, when you generate your media, this one is the OEM scenario. We can discuss the naming of it, but it is indeed the OEM scenario. It has been like that since ConfigMgr 2007. I did write a blog post about that back in the dark ages. Yeah, 2011, still the same. But the idea is basically that you as an admin, you pre-stage the boot image and all the packages on the hard drive. And then you run the sequence, and every time the sequence is using a package, it will pick it up from the hard drive rather than from a distribution point. But now I have my client up here. I'm going to type in my super secret password. I'm going to try to type it correctly also. Not sure if you can see, but I have a little bit hard time typing with this finger right here, because 2 days ago I was brutally attacked by a can of red beans. We were making chili soup, and I cut my pretty bad on it, so I ended up with a few stitches. And now when I use that finger by accident to type, I type in 3 keys at the same time instead of just one. So get the stitches out in a few days though, so I'm excited about that. Now pick one of my sequences, click next. I'm going to give it a computer name, PC75. And now since I enabled the debugger, it's going to open the debugger and show me all variables that currently exist. So let us scroll down. It was the media type. Yeah, so in this environment, the media type does show up as Pixie when booting from a ConfigMgr Pixie. Not sure if that answered the question, but that's what I'm seeing here at least. Only took me half an hour to figure that one out. All right. Any other questions? So there's a question from Matt saying he is running ConfigMgr 2107 and cannot see anything in the community hub. Well, I'm pretty sure this one is a 2107 unless I upgraded it to 2111. No, this one is still as 2107. Don't have the latest hotfix on it, but 2107. And I open this console on the client. Love how they don't have this one shortcut on it. All right, then get that link. Review 2. Softcom. Link. Question mark. Link ID equals 2153 668. It's the same to me. All right, let's see. Since the WebView 2 is not installed, a banner should show, but it does not. All right, let's go to a client like this one here. And go to the server, site, tools, console setup, and always run the console setup.exe, never the MSI, and we'll take a look. Luckily, the console install is quite quick. So right, here we are. Install the latest console on a 20H2 client. And in this particular environment, certainly is enabled, like you had done as well. And let's see. It does show up as empty. Interesting. Wonder what version I have up here. Also 2107. I have not noticed. Wonder if I go to CM Pivot, because that one has an extension to Community Hub as well. Able to load. Patient service must be functional. I actually don't know. I haven't noticed. Anyone else seeing the same thing by any chance? One of the MVPs that had a little bit of a blog post related to the topic. Let's see what this one is about. Hmm. We don't have any of those options showing up. Nothing about the Community Hub. If I have any site server that is nowhere, keep a few around. Also 21, but with the hotfix installed. And this one does have the extension installed also, as well as having the community hub on. This one doesn't load it either. Nope, sure looks like there's some issue with 2107 and the community hub. I think I have any newer versions at the moment. Andrew had looked in the documentation and said this is a known issue in 2107. See if we can find that known issue. In 2107. And kindly provided me with a link. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thing is, on one of the machines, we actually did have the console extension installed. Borrow that link real quick. I have no idea which one to actually use here. This one here. Didn't see a console notification. I'm pretty sure I have allowed this one because that one is required for MDT. So there is a site service setting here. Maybe it's in the hierarchy settings. Yeah, so this one have to be cleared when having third-party console extensions. But this one looks pretty okay to me. Unless we have to run the setup again. Quite fun, live debugging twice. while we're waiting for that update to complete, oh, here we go. Double win for the day. All right, that's 2 for 2. Turns out that even if it showed up here nicely, still had to run install on it. And there was definitely no warning prior to this one up here for me. I should gonna go to the other server that I had just for the fun of it. This one here. Also had the community extension or the WebView extension, but install is not done. I bet you will be able to load that one also on this one. Interesting. Well, I learned something new today as well. Thank you very much for that opportunity. So hopefully that answered the question, man. There was another question in the chat regarding the January 20 lab session that we're running, the hour-and-a-half long mini course. Do you need any existing servers to start up with the new kit? Well, the kit assumes no matter what version of the kits you're using, if it's the 2019 or the upcoming 2022, these are complete server builds. So if you want to spin up a different kit environment, you actually have to start with no virtual machines. Now, obviously, if you have an older version of the kit, you can just upgrade that site server to the latest version. But usually, I don't recommend in-place upgrade server of the operating system, so I prefer to spin up new ones. So unfortunately, you will have to start fresh on those virtual machines. You obviously don't need to do anything on your host, but you need to spin up a few VMs using the kit. So that one installed extensions. So if the console opens up nicely now, in a minute here. Yeah, that one is loading as well. All right, console extension it is. Have to be run install first. Any other questions? Got a comment from Ryan on Facebook there. He was also running the site server and config manager, or same version of config manager, and for him the community knew help loaded just fine. So it was not a version issue. It was more of a configuration item that needed to be done on that version on the platform. All right. Any other questions? We have a whopping 7 minutes to go. Russell is asking for a recommendation on standing RBAC and best practices around that. Well, I would love to say that you can attend me and Andrew's course on that topic, but if you're looking for free information, the ConfigMgr docs is actually not too bad in terms of how to get it going. What it's kind of lacking is more like scenario-based practices, like I want to achieve X. what would be the best recommendations to do that. And that's something I found with the ConfigMgr documentation in general. It's usually excellent on describing every single feature and how they work, but often not so scenario driven per se. I have seen some basic tutorials on our back. Niall has one. System Center Dudes created a few ones. Those are a little bit older. Well, a little bit older, but Justin actually have a video on the topic. So maybe that one. Okay, let's see. Go away, come back. So this one here. That will probably be a good start. That link in the chat window for you there. There's a question regarding let's see, a question for a customer wanted to do bare metal deployment, and as part of that, make sure that all physical disks are wiped and formatted, including refresh scenarios. Any guidance around such a request? Well, my first guidance would be make sure you have a backup of those machines if you are intending to wipe them. I think I'm going to need a little bit more clarification on the scenario, because a bare metal deployment is typically with the intention of wiping everything on the particular box, or that you assume that there is nothing on that machine that you want to keep. For side-by-side migrations, that is usually like a replace scenario, or refresh if the same computer, but typically a replace. I mean, there are options in ConfigMgr, especially we have the integration with MDT, to tell the sequence to, once you're done with your backup of the machine, go ahead and wipe it. But that means that you also need to have a backup of the computer in case something goes wrong. The MDT integration does give you an option to capture a data WIM of the old machine automatically. So if you go to your settings package, not that one, but this one, To change this one from none to either auto or network, the backup sequence that runs is going to create an entire Vim file of the old disk. And that is done in the capture action or section of that sequence. So for those machines, if I would go to sequences, go to backup only sequence, this would be the backup step that creates a Vim file of the old computer. And then if you have defined a wipe disk option, this one here, that variable, it's going to head and do a clean disk. And this particular script is just running the native format command, but it's running it with a p switch, specifying it to overwrite every section 3 times. So if I would go to that script in question, this one here, you see that that's how it runs the cleanup. So I mean, if your backup only sequence that you're using as part of your replay scenarios has been configured to do a complete Vim backup of all the volumes on all disks, and you store that backup on a network share somewhere using the network option of the computer backup location, then I would be less afraid to run the action that wipes the disks on that machine. You might have to modify this script a bit because it only does the first logical drive. So what it actually looks like for each drive of this type in fixed disks, unless it's the X colon, which is WinP, it wipes it. So it does look like, even though the documentation or the comment of the script says it would only do the first logical drive, it certainly looks like it's doing it for all the drives on the machine. So test the virtual machines, make sure you to get the scenario right, but otherwise that would probably be my recommendation for that scenario. All right, we are up on the hour. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Next week, as I mentioned when we started, we're going to start a little bit earlier. We're going to kick off at 9 a.m. Central Time on next Wednesday. And until then, thank you for joining. Stay safe and have a good rest of your week. Thank you.